Building a personal brand is going to be the most vital project you're ever going to do in your business, especially as a service provider, as a coach, as a course creator. Basically, if you don't have a physical product business, you're always going to win big if you have a personal brand. And not only that, if you are a founder of any kind of big project, your personal brand is always going to be a huge component that's going to really add to that human element, because people don't pay attention to corporate companies today as much. People don't pay attention to even the product businesses unless there is a founder. And this is actually the reason, in my opinion, why a company like Fenty Beauty is so not only popular but so personable, is because Rihanna, when she first started the company, she was the front and center, and she still is. She still, despite, I believe she's no longer a CEO, so despite not being a CEO officially of her companies, she's still the face of the brand. And every time you think of Fenty Beauty, of course, you think of Rihanna. So personal brand and utilizing your founder story is going to be massive, no matter what kind of company you build. So in this episode, we are going to talk about how to build a personal brand from scratch, how to develop it, how to stand out online, how to beat AI if you wanted to, because in my opinion, I truly believe that personal brand is forever going to be the biggest catalyst of any business, because yes, technology is taking over. Yes, we have artificial intelligence. Yes, we have robots, but recently, actually, this is worth mentioning, YouTube and Facebook, or Meta as a whole, they stopped monetizing the accounts that are using AI generated content. And I really hate to be that kind of person, because I know a lot of businesses are hurt. I know a lot of people are probably like, oh my gosh, I was building this Faceless YouTube channel and now it's not going to get monetized, blah, blah, blah. The companies I know are going to adapt. All these faceless channels, they're probably just going to double down on digital products. And of course, losing monetization income from the platform for some businesses might be a huge hit. But I feel like that's such a win for humanity, because now more than ever, the human content is going to be favored a lot more. I've seen that kind of AI generated content, and as somebody who is using AI, for me personally, it is a little bit creepy. A little bit. Like the photo shoots, cool, but the videos, I've seen those videos, and I'm sure you've seen those as well, where it looks like a real human. But you know what creeps me out every single time is the fact that the person moves, right? They say, and as I speak, I use my tone of voice, I use my emotions. On my YouTube channel, I'm using my, face obviously to show the different emotions that I'm feeling. And every time I move my hands, the movements are cohesive with how I'm speaking. But those AI videos, and I've seen even the really good ones, the facial muscles, they don't move at the same tonality, should I say, as the hands. Right, so the hands are just doing completely something different, like they're speaking and it just looks like this and it's just all weird. So for me personally, I don't want to see any of that stuff anymore. So I don't know about you, but for me, I'm like, yes, can we please see more people in the please? Because I'm tired personally of the faceless content. I know it's been like a huge hit in 2023, 2024, and a little bit of 2025, but we're over that. Like, we want to see real humans. At least I'm going to speak for myself. Maybe you want to see more robots, but personally, I want to see the humans. So technology is the biggest reason why I believe personal branding is going to matter now more than ever. And some of the biggest brands that I know in the digital marketing space have been built solely because of their personal brands. Your personal brand has to be so strong that people don't even question your prices, they don't question your products and services, they don't question the testimonials that you have. Your personal brand is ultimately all about your reputation as well. For me personally, I feel like it's number one, personal brand is how other people perceive you, and it's all about reputation, because It's so hard to build it, and it's so easy to lose it in one day the moment you mess up. And I'm sure you've seen some brands mess up, like some really big public brands mess up, and then experience a huge PR crisis, and then they have to hire those PR crisis management teams and sort their stuff out. So as a personal brand, I'm not going to say I want you to be careful, because I think that's the fun of building a brand, because you can be a little bit risky when building a personal brand. And I want you to also count how many times I'm going to say personal brand in this episode, because I'm willing to guarantee it's going to be about 50. But again, moving on to the reasons why a personal brand is so beneficial. First of all, I know you might be listening to this and you might be a coach, you might be a service provider, you might even be an agency, and you may be saying, well, but I'm just going to build an agency brand. I don't necessarily need to build a personal brand. And I remember this as a social media freelancer slash agency. I remember asking a few of my coaches, I'm like, should I build a corporate brand account for my agency, like make it a name and then put it up as an Instagram account? Am I going to get clients that way? And the opinions have been kind of mixed. Some people said, no, build a personal brand. Other people said, no, start a company page. Personally, I've never started a company page. I do believe there are benefits, but at the same time, there are just so many of them, and a lot of them are the same. And your personal brand is always going to be a part of who you are. So if you already have an Instagram account, for example, and you're like, maybe I should start a second one, just focus on one. And I'm gonna just say, trust me on this, because if you're a social media manager, you know what it takes to manage just one account. You know how much work and effort goes into building one, optimizing one, maintaining, creating content, scripting content, building content calendars. Oh my gosh, like this is a full-time job, right? It's a lot of freaking work. So don't take on another project, because you starting a second page for yourself is essentially like adding another client under your belt, and it's just going to be a lot. So unless you can manage it, but personally, I would not do it. If I had like a cool company name, maybe I would start it and just like build it for the vibes, right? But at the same time, I would put all of my focus and effort onto one account, grow that, talk about my services, talk about what I do. The only reason why I would say it would be beneficial to have a separate account for your social media agency or any kind of marketing agency, no matter what it is that you do, separate from your personal brand, would be is if you are already using your personal brand social media profile for something else. Because I've seen people who have a personal brand and they do some influencer stuff, and then their agency is something completely different, but they still talk about themselves. They still say like, hey, I'm behind this account, right? You can't just create a corporate account and then go all in on creating those graphics and faceless reels and stuff like that. That's not why people are going to buy. People are always going to buy from you because of you. Because here's the deal. There's a million different people who are selling the same services like you. There's a million different people who sell the same services like myself. And the only things that are different are our stories and who we are and our personal brands. Your personal brand is all about persuading others to recognize your value, the value of your product, the value of working with you, the value of investing in different programs with you, the value of being in the same quote unquote room with you, the value of going to events with you. So there are a gazillion different benefits of building a personal brand. So without any further ado, let's get into how to actually do it. The very first step in personal branding is self-discovery and what I call identity profiling. This is ultimately about who you are as a person, what your core values are, what your unique perspectives are, and where your power lies as well. You want to think about what makes you unique. It's not just about the languages you speak or your nationality or your hair color or whatever else. It's about your unique perspectives. What do you think about certain subjects? What do you think about certain things that are happening in your industry? What are your beliefs? What are your main values? This is not just about the business, but just your personal core values. What do you believe is important? Is it honesty? Is it humor? Is it fun? Is it being trustworthy? So think about your core values as a person. What is important to you aside from business? I want you to put the business away and think first about who the heck you are. And there are a couple of questions that you can explore. For example, what do you stand for? What do you refuse to tolerate in your industry? For example, for me, I'm not a huge fan. Let's talk about viral content, or let's create 30 days of content in 15 minutes. I cringe every single time I think about these topics. Every single time I see it in my feed, I'm like, this is not different. This is just like everybody else. This is not how you build a memorable brand, because every single time I've seen some random Instagram account pop up on my explore feed with such piece of content, I never remember them. So, as a personal brand, as a social media strategist, content strategist, that is one topic that I will never talk about. I will never create it. So, I want you to think even about the topics that really make you cringe. What do you see in your industry that just makes you want to punch somebody or makes you want to punch a wall? I'm using a really violent language right now. I know I shouldn't be, but what is absolutely pissing you off in the industry? What do you disagree with? Because these are going to become enemies, and that's how you can position yourself as an authority and somebody who, look, I'm not doing this kind of bull crap. So this is what I want you to really think about. What are your brand enemies? And then I also want you to think about your character in general. I might even recommend for you to take a personality test, or even if you want to get a little bit woo, look into your horoscope, which I don't think it is that woo, but I would look into your horoscope. I would even take 16 personalities test. I would look into human design, especially human design. Personally, for me, really helped me elevate my brand, because it literally told me who I am as a person, as a personality. So I would want you to really dig deeper into who you are. For example, I'm going to use my own example as usual. I'm a very type A personality, very green, very detail oriented, very planner. So I have several girlfriends and several separate groups of friends. And I'm typically the planner, and it's always clear every single time there is anything that's a trip, anything else, Jelena is gonna plan it. She's there, right? I'm gonna plan it. The rest of the people are just gonna show up, and then that's it. So that's my personality, and that's ultimately what I apply and how I position my brand as well. Every single person I have ever worked with, they know I'm always coming to the calls already prepared. I already have the whole strategy lined up. I already have everything outlined. I've already done all of my research. I've already done everything. Like, there's no stupid questions like, what do you want to take out from this call? I'm never going to ask people that, because I already do that homework ahead of time. So think about your brand and really your personality. How are you in real life? Are you somebody who just shows up, like you don't like planning, you rather outsource that? Are you the kind of person who likes to plan? We're probably going to become friends, because I don't have a lot of friends who are planners. So think about your personality, because that is also going to be one of your biggest advantages in your business, because it truly has been for me. And then I also want you to think about your quirks, your imperfections, and your edge as well. What do you believe that's unlike the society? What do you believe that other people in your industry believe? What's about your personality or you as a person that's maybe a little bit different? And after really digging deep into who you are, you can even summarize yourself in 3 words, because I was going to give you the assignment to figure out 1 word for your brand, but sometimes it can be a little bit difficult. What are the 3 words that can characterize yourself and your personal brand? For example, for me, it is one of the words is unfiltered. Another word I sometimes can use, unhinged, raw, bold, because I do have a couple of bold opinions, or a lot of bold opinions. So think about your brand. How do you describe yourself? If I were your friend, how would I describe you? You can even ask one of your best friends and ask them to help you out with this, what kind of personality you are, because I know sometimes thinking about who we are and what's our brand, what's our personality, it's sometimes difficult because we are too close to ourselves. So sometimes I've actually asked some of my friends, I'm like, hey, can you please describe me, who I am as a person, who I am as a coach? What have I achieved? I don't know. So ask your friends, because I believe they're going to help out a lot, especially the friends who've known you for ages. Now, step number 2 of building a personal brand is your operational storyline. That includes your brand vision, your offers, and the overall strategy. And there's really, to understand, in short, your brand really need to answer 3 questions. What do you do? Who do you help? And what transformation do you facilitate? These 3 questions will also help you define your brand tagline that you can put up across all of your social media platforms to really communicate what your brand does and who you work with. Because essentially when people discover you online, that's all they care about. They don't care about your hair color, they don't care about the makeup you use, they only care about what can you, I hate this term, bring to the table, what's in it for them. Right? What can they get from your personal brand? What kind of transformation, what kind of support you provide? That's all people care about. And when it comes to your offers, we can actually probably spend a whole another episode talking about them, because that's all a part of your operational storyline. First, I want you to at least start with one offer. So if you are a social media agency, create 1 to 2 packages, or create like different tiers of packages and focus on that. And from there, you can then build out your offer suite and maybe create some low ticket products, maybe create some consulting packages. So depending on what you want to do with your personal brand. But at first, you need to develop your signature solution. I'm not talking about that you have to have all the methodologies and frameworks figured out. I know for a fact that that takes a while to figure out. For me personally, I've had different frameworks and different ways of doing things my way, but it took me essentially 10 years to get to the point where I have my own content frameworks, I have my own caption writing frameworks and things like that that I teach inside of my program Content Confidential and that I teach to my clients. But in the beginning, at least have like one signature way that's yours, how you help your audience get from point A to point B. And you can always tweak that. I'm not telling you go get a trademark right away. No, at least start from somewhere. Create a signature workflow, the process, how you work with clients from start to finish when they first sign an invoice, and then how you develop, let's say, a social media strategy. So work on that signature solution first. Again, if you would like a whole another episode just about offer suites, DM me on Instagram at Jelena Ostrovska. I'll leave a link down below, and I'll be more than happy to cover an entire episode just about offers, and feel free to bring out specific questions depending on which growth stage you're at right now in your business, and we can talk about different offers. And I would love to do a whole different episode, because I feel like this episode is going to be an hour long if we dive into building out an offer suite. So I'm going to leave it at that. At least answer those 3 questions so that your brand is clear who it is serving, how, and who the heck you are. Step number 3 is digital evidence. And this is the most fun part. This is where we talk about visibility. This is where we build out your content strategy. This is where we talk about the proof and your digital footprint as a personal brand. Now, for these extra few things that I'm about to share with you to work, you need to have all these 4 components in place first. But there are a couple of ways for you to scale your personal brand, and that can always be done through collaborations, either doing a guest training in someone else's Facebook community, or someone else's paid membership, or a school community, or whatever other community, or being a guest on someone else's podcast, or collaborating with somebody money on a joint venture Instagram post. So, you know, those Instagram collaborations, you could do a carousel with some other brand, you could do a reel, but I will give you a warning. You need to be really careful when it comes to collaborations. You always have to vet people to make sure that you guys are on the same page when it comes to core values, beliefs, even if not fully on the same page, but at least be kind of on the middle ground, right? And then you also want to make sure that these people are ethical, because there are, unfortunately, in the coaching industry, a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people who are not entirely ethical. So for me personally, I don't care how big you are, I don't care how big of a following you have, but if there's something that I smell that's iffy, or if I know certain things about personal brands, I'm not gonna call names or anything, but there are just certain personal brands that I would never work with, just because of the things that I know about them, just because of how they started their business. And if there's any kind of unethical practice, unless it's righted, unless it's fixed and adjusted, unless they salvaged their brand, I would not work with them, let alone collaborate. And I want to leave you with this one final piece of advice. You don't need to be everywhere. You need to be unforgettable somewhere first. And it can be just on one platform, like I have done in my business. So building your personal brand takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. I'm not here to tell you that you can do it in a day, but it has to be done intentionally, day in, day out, week in, week out. And for me personally, it took years to build the brand and to make sure that it's at the level where I like it to be, to make sure that I'm positioned as somebody ethical, who cares about her audience and her clients. And it does take time to do, but it's better to start it now than wait another year, because another year can be a really huge difference if you just start now. And if you would like to work on your personal brand together, if you are tired of DIYing your personal brand, then be sure to send me a message on Instagram. Just DM me the word identity, and I'll be more than happy to talk with you about working together and supporting you in developing your personal brand that's going to change thousands or maybe hundreds of thousands of lives. And of course, there's more to building a personal brand, but these first few components are the most important ones, but I want to give you a couple of extras. So this is where I want you to audit your digital footprint. Is your content in alignment with your personal brand? Is it in alignment with your core values? Is it in alignment with the things that you disagree with? Is it in alignment with your edgy opinions? Is it in alignment with your personality? Because if you, for example, if I were all of a sudden to start sharing carousels on Instagram with titles like, here's how I built 90 days of content in less than an hour, that would be completely, I would even say, unethical of me, because I personally disagree with those kinds of posts. I don't believe that you should spend just an hour creating your content. Personally, I feel like that leads to lack of individuality when it comes to your content. It leads to low quality content, and everybody who creates content fast, in my opinion, is just relying on AI, and it's not always ending up well. Now, think about what are your main platforms you intend to leave that digital footprint. I would highly recommend for you to choose at least one or two platforms. One preferably should be something like YouTube that is searchable. Another one, either Instagram or LinkedIn. Think about where your ideal clients are hanging out. If you're somebody who's like a developer or a manager or whatever else, I would probably go into LinkedIn. If you're more of a creative entrepreneur, if you're more of like a coach, life coach, I would recommend hanging out on platforms like Instagram. I would still even recommend Facebook, but you have to be very strategic about how you use Facebook, especially if it's going to be your personal profile without relying on paid ads and fan pages and none of that kind of stuff. But in terms of platforms, I would personally recommend to always have something on YouTube, even if it's going to be tutorials, even if it's going to be any kind of videos. even 2 videos a month are going to do quite a lot for you in a span of 5 years. So I'm not saying that you have to publish super long form videos once a week or twice a week, but I would recommend at least planting seeds on YouTube. And then in terms of your digital footprint, there are a couple of assets I would highly recommend for your personal brand to have. No matter the level of growth you're at, no matter the phase of your business, whether you have or don't have clients, I would, first of all, recommend having all of your social media pages optimized. Once you know the answer to the 3 questions I shared earlier, you want to make sure that every single social platform is optimized and set up. You claim your username, because even if you're not going to be using it, I still want you to claim it. Because, for example, I don't use Twitter, but my username, unfortunately, is not what I would want for it to be. But it's fine, right? But I still want to make sure that the profile is optimized. In case people find me there, they can also find my other platforms. So, for example, if you are not active on Twitter or X, but you are active on your website or you are active on your Instagram account, and somebody, God knows how, finds your X account. So if somebody finds your Twitter, this is exactly why I call it Twitter, because what the hell is X, right? So if somebody finds your Twitter account, but they clearly see that you're not using it, maybe you retweet a couple things here and there, maybe you're, replying to some random tweets, but at least they can still see maybe your website even, but they can still see your Instagram and they can still see what it is that you do, right? Like the little line that says who you are, what you do, and what kind of transformation you offer. So for that purpose, I would recommend having all of your platforms optimized and then drive traffic from each of them to the main one. For example, if you're, again, not active on Twitter, not active on TikTok, direct all the traffic to Instagram. Then the next asset that, in my opinion, you need to have is a website. I don't care what everybody says, oh, but you can just have a link in bio page. It is not the same. It is not the same. I will forever advocate for having a website, because for me, it's always translated to more clients. I've had people go to my website, even if it's poorly designed, and they look at my services page and then they reach out to me and they say like, hey, do you still offer that service? I saw it on your website. So I always recommend having it, because first of all, it's the main platform that no one can take away from you. You can put up all of your offers there. It's essentially like your business card, right? Business card with all the details, right? Your link in bio is just a quick little something that you can give people at events or from your Instagram account. And even still, I will say this, like having a link in bio is cool, because yes, you can direct traffic to different places. You can have your website, you can have your lead magnet on one of the buttons, you can have your YouTube, your podcast. For that purpose, I'm actually probably going to have all of my podcast links in my link in bio as well. But my link in bio is actually built on my website, on my domain. So every single time somebody visits it, they also get to see my main website. So just FYI, if you do have a website, you do also save on certain costs like link in bio. And besides the website, another asset I would highly recommend for you to have is an email list, aka your newsletter. So you can either have a free newsletter that's attached to some sort of value, some sort of transformation, something you deliver every other week or every week or once a month. It can be social media news, it can be video marketing news, it can be AI news, whatever it is that you're going to do with your newsletter. Have an email list where you're always going to direct people to. And again, I said this to a client recently on a call, and I'm going to say this to you as well. When you are posting on social media, you are competing against the ads, the entire algorithm. You're competing against everybody who's posting. And there's a lot of people who are posting content these days. But email lists, even a lot of these content creators who are blowing up and going viral and all that kind of stuff, not all of them even have an email list. I'm somebody whose email inbox is full, but I still open my email every single day. I still open emails from certain people just because I know who it is and I know what I can expect from their emails, right? So I highly, highly, highly recommend having it. The only regret I personally have in my life is that I didn't start it sooner. And I would highly recommend for you to have that. If you want to take it a step further, I would also encourage you to build a lead magnet or a freebie. So it is a free gift that you give away to your audience for an exchange of their contact information, their name, email, sometimes phone number if you want to implement something like SMS, text messaging. Otherwise, at least name and email so they can be on your email list and then receive your email newsletter. These are just a couple of assets that I would highly recommend for you to have when building a personal brand, because all serious personal brands have a website, they have a free lead magnet, they have an email list, and of course, they have their social media profiles optimized. And then, of course, the most important part is posting content that's relevant to your brand. That is the biggest digital footprint you will ever have for your brand. That's what makes people remember your brand, your controversial opinions, your confrontational takes on certain subjects. Your content is what's going to be the biggest personal brand builder you can ever use. And I'll tell you something that a lot of people actually told me over the years, and they still tell me that. I remember when I was first starting out, it was 2015, 2016, and I didn't have an audience, right? I started out as an 18-year-old kid. The only friends that I had on Facebook were my high school friends, friends from like summer camps and whatever, right? So nobody had anything to do with business. So I had to build an audience from scratch. And as I started doing that, I've also made it a point to post 3 times a day. That's what worked back then, not something I do anymore. Sometimes I do post multiple times a day, but it's not an everyday thing. And it's crazy because back then it was a lot of content. Every single time I get those Facebook memories, I'm like, wow, I used to post a lot of content. And I remember people used to tell me, Jay, every single day I log into Facebook in the morning, I see your content. Like there's not a single day that goes by when I don't see your face. And truly, that's what helped me build a personal brand really early on. And I still to this day get this from a lot of people. They say, I open LinkedIn, your content is there. I open YouTube, you're there. I open Instagram, and there you are again. How the hell do you do this? And I'm like, well, to be fair with you, sometimes I post the same exact thing to every single social media platform. I optimize it a little bit for each platform. I adjust some of the content, but I make it a point to show up at least 5 to 6 times a week. So content is forever, in my opinion, going to be the biggest personal brand builder. And my challenge for you would be to choose at least one platform. I'll say one social media platform because we're not going to talk about YouTube, blogging, and podcasts and all of that kind of stuff. Choose one social media platform and go crazy on it for 90 days. Whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, I don't care what it is because they all work and they all have the same principles. Post content every single day, connect with new people every single day, whether through comments, messages. I would recommend interacting in the DMs, building relationships, and make it a point to show up. The only thing that I'll tell you that you can do is take a weekend off, like maybe Sunday, right? Maybe I'll do like Duolingo. I'll give you one streak freeze, but go crazy for 90 days. Take a day off if you need to, but nothing has ever been as beneficial to my business as those 90-day sprints where I committed to a specific goal. And the goal meaning show up for 90 days every single day and build my audience, build relationships with my audience. And that has always grown my business. It has always generated leads. It has always got me clients. And that's something that still works to this day. Part 4 is emotional resonance. This is your brand voice, this is your aesthetic, and this is your storytelling. I want you to remember that people don't just follow you because you have value. They follow you Because you're human, because of who you are, because of your personality, because you're a nice person. That's literally why people stick around with you, because they can probably relate to certain parts of you. They can resonate with you on so many different levels, and that's why they follow you, or they just flat out like you. I've literally had people follow me for 10 years, ever since I started. They've seen the growth, they've seen the struggle, they've seen literally everything, and some of them still hire me to this day as their coach. And this is going to be the most important part of really humanizing your brand and making it kind of come to life. I know you're a life human already, and I know it kind of sounded a little bit weird, but this is where you build the emotional connection with your audience, which is going to be the most important thing. And building an emotional connection can be done through multiple different ways. It can be done through micro stories, so really digging deep into who you are as a person, what happened to you in the past, what kind of stories you've had, what kind of transformations you've had, what struggles you've had. Being vulnerable is another really huge component of building the emotional connection, but not always being vulnerable, because if you use vulnerability too much, you kind of end up being on a pity party, and that's not what you want with your personal brand. It's also about sharing your beliefs. It's also about polarity, sharing something that a lot of people don't believe in, but you do. Sharing your controversial opinions. Like I shared mine. Like I don't like the let's build your content quick. I don't believe in that. I do believe that you have to spend some time, because that's how you put yourself first. That's how you put your brand across, and your content is the first impression people get of you. So why would you want to spend 15 minutes or an hour on that? I would spend a little bit more time and a little bit more effort to make sure that people get that first incredible impression of me. Aesthetics is another part of your brand, but in my opinion, it's not the most important one. What's really important is everything we've talked about up to this point. But of course, your aesthetics do matter. I do like pretty things. I do believe in having a nice Instagram feed, especially because every other platform, in my opinion, aside from YouTube, because you do need to have good thumbnails, but like LinkedIn, you can get away with something basic. Facebook, you can get away with posting brand photos and colorful background quotes. But Instagram, it's like a portfolio, right? People land on your account and it's very visual. And for me, I've always loved aesthetics. I like fashion, I like makeup, I like pretty things. So I do put aesthetics a little bit forward compared to other Instagram gurus. But one of the most important parts of growing your personal brand is forever going to be storytelling, because this is something that cannot be outsourced to AI. All of your personal brand stories, all of your struggles, trials, tribulations, problems that you've experienced, all of that is a part of who you are. And that's why people are going to stick to your brand just for that. And literally, if there's two things that are going to be the most important ones, and you've probably already heard some of them to some extent. In the world of AI and technology evolving faster than ever, the two of the most valuable things that people are always going to pay attention to and want to be a part of is one, storytelling, and two is communities. So if you can do two things with your personal brand online, one, share amazing stories that people are going to relate to, because like I said, it's not going to be outsourced to AI. And number two is build a community. Every single community needs a brand that's going to hold it.